Hello everyone, my name is Espik23 here for a KTaNE module tutorial. Wrong button. In this module we're going to be covering the organization module. So organization is a boss module, and what it asks you to do is quite interesting. What it does is it asks you to solve all the modules on the bomb in a specific order. You don't know what that order is. The only thing you do know is the next module that needs to be solved, which is written on this notebook right here. This module also has a switch where you can flip up and down. And this is that's another thing that makes it where it's not just solve this module and continue. No, you have to do a little bit of solving in between. So this module does require edge work, so we're going to grab it. Have one battery and one holder. We have a lit FRK. An unlit FRQ, and two empty core plates, I believe. Yep. Serial number is Delta 06, uniform Sierra 1. Alright. So, there's a list of rules right here determines the position that the switch needs to be when we're continuing through the bomb. So, we're going to go through all these rules, and I'm going to highlight them in one of three colors. Blue means that the rule can apply, but not always. Red means that the rule will never apply for this bomb, and green means that it will always apply. So, let's go through these rules. If the current number of solved modules is a multiple of 3, move the switch up. Mark that in blue. Otherwise, if the displayed module has an even number of vowels, excluding Y, move the switch down. Otherwise, if the digit, Mega Man 2, or unfair cipher is solved, move the switch up, as we don't have any of those on this bomb, so no. Otherwise, if the displayed module starts with an S, move the switch down. We don't have any modules that start with an S on this bomb. Otherwise, if the bomb is an S and D indicator, move the switch up. No, it doesn't. Otherwise, if a forget this is on the bomb, move the switch down. There's not. Otherwise, if the bomb has 2 batteries or less, move the switch up. We only have 1 battery, so this will be true. And there you go. Otherwise, move it down. So, first module is the button. So, if we solved any of these other modules, we will still solve that module, but organization will strike us since it's not the button in this case. Let's solve the button. There we go. It's solved. Now what do we do? So the switch has to be in a certain position. The common true rules that you'll find are these first two here. If there's a multiple of 3 solves, or if there's an even number of vowels. In this case, there's only the bomb. We only have 1 solve. So we're going to go through this label, the button, and count the number of vowels. The way I like to do it is I write the whole module's name down here, but every time I reach a vowel, I capitalize it. Oh. Also, I need to type the module correctly. And then I backspace all consonants and only leave in the vowels. Now I get a nice easy count of how many vowels there are. In this case, there's an odd number, so this rule doesn't apply, so we keep the switch up and continue. There we go. Now we have keypad. Here's keypad. Let's solve keypad. That would be this. There we go. Now keypad. Let's see how many vowels are in here. As you can see, Y does not count as a vowel in this module. We have 2 vowels, so we move the switch down. There we go. Complicated wires. Alright. Let's solve this. Nice easy one. Now, I could calculate the vowels for I wanted to, but now we have 3 solves. 3 solves is a multiple of 3, so no matter what, we flip the switch up. And wires. There we go. How many vowels are in wires? Just 2. Keep the switch down. Continue. And that's a solved module. So on a bomb with only 5 modules, this module really isn't that bad. However, on larger bombs, this is kind of an issue because, like I said, you have to do this for the whole bomb, barring any boss modules. So we're going to look at the same bomb again that we just did. In this manual, we have 2 different lists. We have the ignored list, and the moved to back list. I'll get to what this bottom section means in a little bit. We have different edge work now, so we're going to get the different edge work. The order in which the modules will be a random order. You don't know what it is, you only know what the first module or the next module is. If I were to solve the raw module, Order! The complicated wires I solved, but it wasn't wires. It was complicated wires. So that's solved, but as you can see, organization struck because it was the wrong module. Yeah, a lot of batteries, wow. So let's actually solve wires. So these ignored modules and move to back modules indicate modules that organization will not care about, or they will care about, but not for a while. The ignored modules are mostly boss modules, however there's other modules in there, such as a mistake, the hexa button, LinkedIn's at, laundry, tax returns, Yahtzee. The reason why these modules are in here is because these modules may solve on their own or are incredibly time dependent or solve dependent, and it would be hard to change an answer on the spot with some of these modules. Or they're actually boss modules, such as Forget Me Not. In this case, organization will not look at these modules. Move to back. These are modules that aren't bosses, but are what's harder than most other modules, such as Game of Life Cruel, micro modules, Bamboozled Again, stuff like that. These modules will only show up on organization as the next module to solve if all other modules that aren't ignored and are not on this list are solved first. So you have time to solve your other modules while you hold harder modules for later. In any case, let's actually look at the rules for this module right here. These two will always be in blue, by the way. I have an SND, I think it has a TRN. So here's an interesting case. Now the cases are pretty easy. The only times we actually have to switch up is when there are multiple free cells. So for this bomb, we don't need to calculate how many batteries you have. And you don't need to do that for every single organization. So you can get lucky like that, but you won't all the time. As you can see, I didn't really need to think much about that one. So I explained how these ignored and move to back lists work. I'm going to go grab a bomb that actually has a module from such list on it. Alright, so I picked up a different bomb, and this is a mistake, and mistake is on the ignored modules list. So even though this thing is telling me to solve square button, I can actually solve a mistake. Let me get the answer quickly. 9, 18. Okay. So, let's say, organization is asking me to solve square button. I can actually solve a mistake, and organization will not strike. That's because a mistake is on the ignored modules list. So organization will never ask for, and it will never care about any ignored modules. Now notice how it says if enabled. I'm going to get to what this means in a little bit. It's a configuration setting, but when it says if enabled, there are still other modules that will always be ignored. We'll get to what those are in a little bit. So anyway, we're going to get the rules for this bomb again. Or not again, just get the rules for this bomb. Now, I specifically spawned this bomb with a square button because this rule can apply if the displayed module starts with an S, then move the switch down. Do you have an SND? No, we don't. And we also have a 1 battery, right? Yep. Alright. So square button. So now because the switch starts with the module that we're about to solve starts with an S, even if we have an odd number of vowels, we still have to flip the switch down, not up, because it starts with an S. I actually don't know how many vowels this module has. As you can see, it actually does have an odd number of vowels. So we would keep it up. Because it starts with an S, we're going to flip this down. Now let's actually solve this. I'm pretty sure this is a hold. Yep. There we go. As you can see, that was correct. Now I also spawned the bomb with this on it on purpose as well. As you can see, this is the actual display name for the module. It's called Big Button Translated. There we go. Now, just because a module may be called something else, such as translated button, this module only cares about the display name for the module that's found in the in-game profile editor, and it's also, the name says Cosmic Explosion, and it'll say the display name. So even though Big Button Translated isn't the most common name called for this module, it is what the display name is for the module in the code, and that's what organization will use and will care about. So how many valves does this have? Actually, wait a minute. I don't need to know, because we're going to be on 3 solves. It means that I will always have this up. FRK, we only have 1 battery. Apparently I don't remember my button rules. Sorry about that. And lastly, anagrams. Anagrams. 3 vowels. Keep it up. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to explain the move to back list. As you can see, this module now has an unfair cipher on it. And unfair cipher is on the move to back list. So for any modules that are on the move to back list, these modules, as the name implies, will always be moved to back in the list of modules that we need to solve. So in this case, we only have 3 other modules. But on bigger bombs, anything on the move to back must be, and it will always be solved after anything that's not moved to back. Anagrams, word scramble, and Big Button Translated are not on this list, so we will be solving these 3 first, and then we'll ask me to solve unfair. And no, I won't actually solve the unfair. Also, let's go through these rules. Unfair is also right here, so this rule will apply if after we solve the unfair, assuming that unfair doesn't have an even number of vowels. I don't know if it does or not. It'd be interesting that they make a rule that will never apply for that specific module instance. Actually, I'm going to find out right now. Okay, odd number of vowels. Okay. Thank you, module creator, for noticing that. But anyway, S and D, yes we do. So this will be the new green rule in this case. It means we will always apply this. So this is essentially, if none of these 3 rules apply in blue, follow the rule in green. Anyway, we're going to solve this module, or solve these 3 modules. I'm not going to solve this unfair because I don't want to spend too much time on this. Anagrams. Has an odd number of vowels, keep it up. Word scramble. How many vowels does this have? It's also odd, so keep it up. Big Button Translated. There we go. Keep it up because level 3. And now, as you can see, it now is asking for unfair cipher. Interesting that for this bomb specifically, this rule doesn't even matter because if it doesn't have if it has an odd number of vowels, we're going to just flip it up anyway. Same with kind of these rules, since there's only 2 states that the switch can possibly be. Sometimes rules will never apply, even though they can apply, they don't matter, like this rule right here. But anyway, that's how the move to backlist works. Alright, so here's one more thing about organization. There's going to be a couple of more little things that we'll explore as this tutorial goes on, and that is with time mode. Time mode is most often used on Twitch plays, and on Twitch plays you have an automatic solve queue that's that people can use their queue, their solved models in, but they can't actually submit them or solve them because organization will strike. Now, there's a nice thing with time mode is that if I were to solve a module, since it's big button translated, since it's asking me to, there we go. Interesting. That's where it shows without the timer. I didn't know that. So let's say people on Twitch plays have like this right here, but they can't submit it. Dust. Because if I would have pressed the OK button on either of these modules, organization will strike, and you lose time. Let's actually find the rule for this. Excuse me. Alright, even numbers. So you flip down. Now, if you noticed, you have cooldown. So I can submit these modules when it says in cooldown, and I won't get penalized for it. Now, this cooldown only lasts for 30 to 45 seconds. So even though there's a module left, this unknown cipher, even though I can do this without the manual, there's no way I can possibly do it in time before the cooldown runs out. So we're going to let the cooldown run out for a second. As you can see, when there are only 10 seconds left, it'll start counting down from 10. It also plays the needy activate sound when time is up on the cooldown. Now there is an exit needy on the bomb, it just makes that sound, and now it's asking me to solve unknown cipher. So this is more of a thing for Twitch plays, since sometimes, since the timer is only 7 minutes and you might get a while before your first solve comes in, and someone has to take the organization and get the answer. You know, sometimes the solves can get very, and I mean very backed up. Especially if you get unlucky and it asks for like something that's not on move to back but still hard, like lousy chess is an example that I think should be moved to back but isn't as of right now. But yeah, one more thing involving Twitch plays and we'll get back to more stuff about organization. So here's another thing that I've seen people do. Let's say if you're running desperately low on time but you know you can't solve this, well, in time mode you can still solve other modules to get more time, as you can see. Not much, but it's still there. For example, it's easier to solve when I have less than 10 seconds. As you can see, I was still technically gaining time, even though I'm still losing again from organization. If you had a bigger multiplier and I was solving modules that were worth more points, it makes a bigger difference. But as you can see, I wasn't gaining that much time, but it does work in some cases. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is organization, looking at modules that have two of the same module in the file. For example, organization is asking for digital roots, but we have two digital roots on the bomb. Well, what do? When this case happens, you only solve one of them. So if there, let's say if I had 2 or 3 or 5 digital roots, you only solve one of them and then continue. If you were to solve another one, then the module will strike. So let's see, for example, if I solve this digital root, excuse me, if I were to solve this other digital root, because we already solved the digital root, the module struck because we were only supposed to solve only one digital root and then continue. So that's how that works. Alright, so now what happens if I have multiple organizations? So multiple organizations, even though it sounds more intimidating, it actually is kind of better in some way. So with multiple organizations, you can solve either module that's on the organization. So I can solve this word scramble or this flavor text. I'm going to solve this word scramble. Now as you can see, this organization with the word scramble had the arrow in it. This means that you solved the module that was on this notebook. And even if I were to solve this flavor text, that module actually struck, because it actually, when it has the arrow on it, you don't solve anything else. It's similar to what happens after an organization once you solve that module. Basically, if there's an arrow on it and there's multiple ones, that you then continue before you solve another module. That's simply what that means. So in the mod settings, we also have the settings right here. By default, both of these are turned on and this is turned off. Ignore solve base and enable move to back. Enable move to back, when turned off, means that this list does not matter and it will blend in with the rest of the non-move to back modules. I'm going to check this off and then I'm going to explain an example of that. As you can see, this is what happens when you have disabled to move the back list. As you can see, Bamboozled again is on the move to back list, and organization is asking me to solve it first, even though the rest of the 3 modules are not on the move to back list. And so yeah, it basically makes stuff harder, and this mod will probably blow up before I manage to solve this thing if I actually try it, but essentially that's how disabling the move to back list works. Alright, so that was the enable move to back setting. Now we're going to toggle off the setting ignore solved base, and let's see what happens now. So as you can see, I've loaded the bomb right here, and if we keep going, it is now asking for a mistake. Now a mistake should normally be part of the ignored modules. However, what we're doing here with the configuration setting is the ignored modules are no longer ignored as long as they're not other boss modules such as forget this. Also I loaded the forget this because this rule can apply if there's a forget this. So even though both forget this and a mistake are on the ignored list, that setting that we just configured only turns off those that are not bosses, so a mistake, black hole, blind maze, color code, cruel piano keys, but it will still ignore forget this, divided squares, souvenir, turn the key, stuff like that. So to prevent me solve a mistake, apparently there was wrong, I can't do that, but so as you can see, we can continue an organization. An organization solves because there were no other modules that are not bosses, because forget this is considered a boss, and no, I did not write down the stages. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I covered everything on how this module works. The configuration settings can be found in either the text file in the configuration folder, or mod settings folder, I don't remember which one it was called, or they can be found with tweaks installed with the tablet with the mod selector you can find in the lobby. But anyway, that's how this module works, so thank you guys for watching this tutorial. As always, keep talking and don't explode.